followed by b3 and bishop b2. And the last continuation I want to look for black is when they take c takes d. Again, I'm going to give you now position explaining which is clearly bad position for black. Now you take with a pawn, and this is one of the most popular positions in chess in general. You can get this type of position, the type of position, not exact same position, where the isolated pawn, you can get it from Sicilian, from Caro-Kann, from Grunfeld, from Queen's Gambit, King's, well, no, not the King's Gambit, from majority of the chess openings. But this particular position is not good for black. After cd, ed, knight c6, for example, bishop e3, and bishop e7. Let's see what's the black's problem here. White goes a4. And after b4, we have to go knight d2, castle, and knight to b3 or c4. Knight b3 is also very, very good. And after bishop b7, a5. Let's look at this position. Black has in their possession the d5 square, which they can occupy any time, while we are not contesting d5 square. What we have c file for the rook. We have potential c file for the rook, c5 square for our knight, and black has big problem with a6 pawn, which is always under observation and needs two pieces that are tied up defending it. Position is real bad, and I have played this position several times. It's a real difficult position for black to play. So that practically wraps up the Queen's Gambit accepted entirely. So let's go to the d4. So we finished all the varieties of d5 move except miscellaneous opening after d4, d5, c4. Miscellaneous opening means knight c6 move, bishop f5 move, and e5 move. Now, those are very small openings and very easy to get some advantage of them. Now, we have to spend just a few minutes on them, that I give you a very brief, quick line, and we move on. But if you want to get bigger advantage, then I would recommend you, then you have to learn more theory, and then you have to get help from the opening publications. So let's look at e5 move. This is the more popular than the other two I showed you. This is Albion counter gambit. D takes c, d4, knight f3. This is all modern theory. Knight c6, pawn g3, bishop g4. And in this position, book says play knight d2. Knight d2 is the best move, they say. Okay, here's what I would tell you. Book says what is the most popular, and the most popular move comes from the statistics of games played and the result which a certain continuation produced. But we have different agenda here. We have different incentive here. We want to get good position with a quick learning and quick window out of the opening with comfortable position. I recommend bishop g2. It's never a danger that black will take pawn on f3, knight on f3, and pawn on e5 because their pawn on b7 is hanging. My idea actually is not to play knight d2 ever. And for example, queen d7, the main move, castle, and black castles. Now what happens is black may be intending bishop takes f3 and knight takes e5, since b7 pawn is protected. So that's why actually white theory recommends to connect those knights, that e5 pawn will be always secured. But I don't think if e5 pawn is as relevant, so I would go queen a4 here. And if black wants to take this knight on f3, they cannot do it yet, because bishop takes f3 and on knight takes e5, a7 pawn hangs. So let's see what is the idea why I'm withholding knight d2 move. There is an idea behind it. This opening was played, this position was already in my game. My opponent played bishop h3. What I recommend, this is sharp way to play for white, and I think well justified. Now, what black wants to do here? Black wants to exchange light square bishop, since bishop on g2 protecting white's king, and then what black wants to play h5 open and mate us. So we want to do the same thing on the queen side. So who is first? And I think this position, honestly, I think this position is a real bad for black. So what we should do here, we should simply, we have an extra pawn, we don't mind giving it back, but we want to gain some time for an attack. There is our extra pawn, e5 pawn. So we're playing e6, and black must capture on e6 with the bishop, which delays their plan of exchanging light square bishop. Why with the bishop? Because after e6, if queen takes e6, then after knight g5, black can simply resign. And pawn takes e6 is also not possible, because white simply plays bishop takes h3. So bishop takes e6 move is absolutely unconditionally forced. Then we go rook d1. See, now if black comes back to h3, we can retreat the bishop and keep light square bishop, which is so strong on the diagonal h1 to a8. So supporting white's attack. So what happened in my game, let's go quickly through this game. Knight f6, bishop g5, bishop e7, and the reason why I was not developing my b1 knight, first we already played bishop g5, and now we go knight to c3. Knight becomes a lot more active on c3 than it could have been on d2. Black played h6, bishop takes f6, bishop takes f6, and knight to d5. In this position, actually, black played bishop takes d5, and black made a mistake and lost quickly. But position, I think, is already very bad. Bishop takes d5, c takes d5, queen takes d5, knight takes d4. You see now bishop opened, light square bishop, and on queen a5, knight takes c6. And after queen a4, bishop h3, black is checkmated. Next move. So this is one of the reasons. This is little tactics involved, but it's far from being forced, of course. But no matter what black did, white has very strong position. Well, this is my recommendation on Albion's counter gambit, and you can try it. So the difference between this brief version